first thing we do when a client comes into Healing Hands is we take a client intake form. We gather information on their medical background, if they've had any surgeries, accidents, broken bones, what have you, any kind of medications they're on that may affect their body in one or more ways. And then, as I'm working on the client and the feet are starting to tell me areas of weakness and sensitivity, I mark that on their individual chart, and they get a new chart every time they come in. But this allows me, when they come in on the second, third, fourth session, to go back to previous sessions and see what kind of progress we're making in the areas of concern that they've had. Now, the first thing we do is we relax the foot. We relax the ankle. So many people are really stiff in the ankles and they don't have the rotation that they need to walk properly. So we really work those ankles and get things loosened up. Coming up to the metatarsals, often people are getting very, very stiff in through here. They've got their feet in shoes, and our feet were never really designed to be put in shoes. So the feet begin to get stiff. I then work the metatarsal area under here, which is all related to the chest, the lungs, the breast. As we're coming up, these are the neck reflexes, thyroid, anything in the thyroid, or in the neck, such as parathyroid. Coming up through here, as you noticed, Joanne winced a moment. And I have a record that that's not uncommon for her. That's a sensitive area for her. You'll see that we're taking very small, very precise pressure techniques here. Now she's obviously a little bit tender there, so we're going to relax this a little bit more. Then we start to come up the spinal reflexes. As you can see, this inside arch of the foot closely reflects our spine. The big toe, or the great toe as we call it, is the head, coming down, sitting on the neck, which connects to the cervicals. Your C7 cervical reflexes are right in here. People are often very sensitive. Moving down into the thoracic area, we work these very closely and diligently because all the nerves of the body come through the spine, and subsequently we can have a great impact on that. Moving down to the lumbar area, down to the sacrum, and finally the coccyx area, or the tailbone. Not uncommon for people to be very sensitive in these areas. Now, it's important to understand that much like if you were shot in the chest with an arrow, the arrow would go straight through the front of your chest and come out the back, and it's going to pierce everything in there. Reflexology is based on the same concept. I can work the dorsal area of the foot. At the same time, I'm affecting all the reflexes that I would be also getting if I came at that same point from the plantar side of the foot. So sometimes the reflexes are easier to get to from the plantar side versus the dorsal side, or vice versa, depending on the specific person. Now, the way that reflexology mapping is set out, we've got longitudinal and horizontal guidelines, if you will. So right under the metatarsal area here is what we call the diaphragm guideline. I work this area under the metatarsals very carefully and very thoroughly because this is where we hold all of our stress and tension. Above that is the chest, which contains the lungs, the heart, everything in that area. I work that very thoroughly. Coming up where the toes connect to the foot, the long parts of the toes are the neck reflexes, and the fleshy parts of the toes are everything in the head, including the sinuses, the pituitary, and the brain reflexes. As we move down the foot beyond the diaphragm guideline, between here and here, which is the waistline guideline, you've got all the organs in the torso of the body. So this is where I would effectively, on this foot, reach the liver and the gallbladder, which is up in here. On the opposite foot, it would be the stomach in the same region because it's off to that side. And then as we move on below the waistline, we've got all the digestive stuff in here, your small intestinal tract, your colon comes up and transverses across both feet. And then once we move down beyond that, we get into the lower pelvic area. So the whole ankle part here and the bottom of the heel is pelvic. You won't find a lot of reflexologists that are not thoroughly trained that work this area thoroughly, but it's very, very important, especially if anybody's suffering from sciatica, because all of those nerves come down through the hips, and there are specific points for sciatica pain.